Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome to Wine Women and Words. I'm Michelle, and with me, of course, is Diana.
Hello.
And today we have our very first author of the month for 2018. We have author Deborah Pratt. Thank you so much for joining us, Deborah.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
And I paused for a second because I wasn't sure on the book it says Deborah Pratt, but I know on everything else it says Deborah M. Pratt. So I wasn't sure how I should introduce you. And I probably should have asked you that before we went live. So I apologize for that.
Both of them work. It's one of those things where I was putting Deborah M. Pratt, but for whatever reason, it should just be Deborah Pratt. So I said, well, it is.
Well, we are going to be discussing your book, The Atlantian, by, of course, Deborah Pratt.
And if you notice, I've got like Post-its all in mine now because.
Ooh, yeah. Notes. I like it. And then I get to tell you about book 2 and book 3. Oh, wait. And oh no, that's wrong. Book 3 and book. I'm working on it.
I know I have the other 4 books on my bookshelf, and I have to work them into the rotation now to find out what happens next.
5, and I just ran into a really interesting event that happened, and I had to stop writing to kind of deal with it. So I'll only say that.
Ooh.
And that.
Intrigue.
Well, just to warn everybody tonight, we have devised a drinking game. So for those of you who are playing along with us, every time one of us says outstanding, you got to take a drink. So I said it, so everybody has to take a drink now.
I think we need to have a word of the episode every episode.
It's
yeah, I've started something. Now you're in trouble.
Yeah, this is better than Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I don't know how we went this far without having a word of the day.
I don't know. It's fun. I'm going to abuse it.
That's like.
So what can I tell your audience about the Vision Quest? Do they know anything about the book?
Well, yes, we've actually been reading it all month and discussing it all month with them.
Okay.
So hence why you're a book of the month. So we've all been reading it and discussing it. And we should say that tonight's episode will contain spoilers. So for those of you who have not finished the book yet and are very spoiler sensitive, I recommend stopping now, finishing the book, and then pressing play again. Because you really want to listen to us.
Hopefully you're a really, really outstanding reader.
I'm going to have to get a refill before this episode is over.
You should have planned better, Michelle. I always bring my bottle with me. I have it next to the computer.
It's okay. It's right there. So it's easy access. So, well, I know we've mentioned this in earlier episodes, but if anyone's just joining us for the first time, Deborah, you have a lot of experience with television as well. You worked on Quantum Leap, I know, and other series. So one of the first questions, we're gonna dive right in here, was did you kind of map out the idea for the Atlantian as a series, or did it kind of develop as you were writing?
Well, I co-created Quantum Leap. I wrote 26 episodes by myself. I was co-exec producer and head writer. I liked the idea of science fiction fandom and how honest they were and how smart they were. And I've always been a science fiction fan. I think the first book was Jules Verne's Bottom of the Sea. And I really felt that science fiction writers had this place in history where they inspired technology. And I think people forget, nobody had been to the bottom of the sea when Jules Verne's, the turn of the 20th century wrote Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea or First Man on the Moon. And then shows like Star Trek, same kind of thing. The flip phones were definitely those communicators.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were working on, it was really important to me that we, even though it was really a show about personal stories, and we got to travel through time and comment on social, relevant social storylines, I felt I really want to write something that is positive, essentially. There were all these books on dystopian societies, like the Hunger Games and what's the one, the name of it? Divergent.
Hmm.
And I said, you know, what if we got it together as a planet and as a race, and instead of destroying each other, what if we act unified?
Mhm.
And the idea that we were smart enough, of course, they had some disasters, the Great Quakes happened. I was mad at South America because they were cutting down trees. Sorry, guys. So I sank the entire continent, but I domed it, so we survived. Atlantis rose in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And then I wanted to really deal with things. So literally it took me months and months and months to create an 80-page Bible to answer all my questions occurred, and we began again as a human race. We had gone to the moon, we brought back a virus, the virus killed all domestic pets. We started to genetically splice pets because we as humans love our pets. And then they started to genetics and created these splicers. And to me, the coolest thing that came out of that was the fact that these splicers, their humanity was so new to them, they remembered the powers that we'd forgotten, and they start to teach them back to us.
Mm-hmm. And
then we put our genetics into machines, and the machines become sentient, and they look at our history and go, screw up. Are these, they're done. Age of Men is done. So the book series really becomes, can we as humans wake up to our metaphysical powers before the machines build an army and wipe out humanity? It gave me the opportunity, like in Quantum Leap, to comment on social things. And it's really funny because long before Bitcoin, in the books, I talk about, I didn't call it cryptocurrency, but I talk about digital currency. There was a global currency. So there are a number of things, and I've seen some of the reviews where people have said, wow, there's so many answers in these books about what the future could be. And my goal is to bring people into this world. Between books 1, 2, and 3, invited people to go to thevisionquest.com and create a character of yourself in that world. Are you a splicer? Are you a human? Where do you live? Which I put the map in the books. And then they wrote stories. They blogged to me. Not on this website. I lost that website. Thank you, technology. People could vote aura up, because auras are important in the books.
Mm-hmm.
And you could aura somebody up. So I took 2 of the readers became writers in the story, and there are 2 characters in the books, book 3, that were actually from fans.
How neat.
That's
Yeah, because I want these books to be integrated, that you as a reader can come into this world and then help create the bigger world.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the books are a huge success. I want to create a system world.
Okay. Very cool.
Like a game like Warcraft, where you actually create your own. These games have the power so that we can start to create the future that we want to live in. Machines before they take us out.
Right.
Yes,
Long
because that
answer.
keeps coming up a lot more again. And, I just have to stop and say, and I was telling Michelle this before, you're kind of responsible for me getting into science fiction.
I'm honored. Outstanding.
Yay! Yes, I remember Quantum Leap was the first science fiction series that I got into, and it was on, what was it, early 90s, late 80s when it first came
You
on?
first came on the air 1989.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then
I was 9 years old, and I'd been introduced to Star Wars, but I liked it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. But I got into Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap was my thing. I watched all of the episodes. I've gone back periodically because it was on Netflix, and I've binged watched Quantum Leap episodes even now. Because that sparked my interest in time travel, and really, I think even maybe a little bit even in history. Historical fiction writer and nerd and history nerd, and I love the fact that when he went back in time for these different lives, and that's where I have my passion for history, is looking at people's lives and history. So yeah, you're responsible for a lot of my nerdiness.
I take full responsibility for your nerddom.
Thank you.
Well, one of the things that I loved, and you touched on that in your answer, was how advanced the society was. This wasn't a society that was like knocked back to the Stone Age or anything. They were advanced, and it was an established society, and they had science and technology, and far more technology than we have now. They blew us away in what they had. And I just loved the depth that you gave the world. It wasn't, like, oh, we'll throw in a few details here and there to make it sound believable. But I was Googling words to find out if this was like a real word or if it was a made up word for the story. So there was so much depth given, to the details. And I thought that was one of the things that really made it sound believable, like it could happen. Oh no, did she freeze? Is anyone there? Diana?
I'm here.
Okay. Deborah, are you still with us? Oh no. Pause. So, oh, there she is.
Okay.
Are we here?
We are here.
Yes, we're here.
So,
There we are. I had to put my glasses on so I could see where we were. Sorry, did we answer that question?
where did I cut off? Because I can go on my speech again.
We were talking advanced society. And so what I was saying was that we were advanced because there were no countries. So information exchange, because we didn't live in this society of control and live in now. And because information flowed so freely and everybody got the same information, and your ability to read someone's aura to see if they were lying to you made it really easy to call somebody out if they were trying to cheat you or take advantage of you. So I think some of the things I created in the story elevated us as humans, which was the whole goal, that we need to evolve and elevate as human beings.
I absolutely love Kyla as a character.
Me too.
Absolutely adore her. Yeah, Laser, not so much. I tried, and I feel like he is the Zach Morris of the series.
The what?
The Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell. Zach Morris.
He's angry. He's angry.
Yeah. He's angry in the beginning. He starts off as very self-centered douchebag, if you will.
Well, he's an angry teenager, and I feel like the last sentence of the book was really like the start of him starting to grow into the character that he was meant to be. Was that it dawned on him that he was going to be the one to step up. He couldn't wait for someone else to step up and do it for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his journey is really an interesting journey, and I didn't want to put that journey on Kyla because she's an advanced. She is as a young woman is advanced, and he holds the whole primitive mentality that holds us back, that keeps us from our powers. His anger, his need for revenge, all the things that over the course of the next books get in his way of being able to be as powerful as he could be. Even though he, by chance, like most men, fell into the power of the Norbs. So, and you really haven't, I mean, you've been introduced to Master Poe, but she is a powerhouse. When you start to learn about her, once they get to the academy in the second book, and she starts to teach him, he starts to evolve, but all back. And that's the lesson that I wanted readers to pick up on, was that your own frustration, your anger, your sense of revenge of things that don't go your way are the things that hold you back from evolving as a better human being.
I mean, even if you wanted to look at it on a much larger scale, he could, if we're going to go very literary metaphor-y, he could be a metaphor with everything that's happening in the world. Ego is so much of what gets in our own way, and he could represent the old world, like the world that sank before Atlantis rose, and he has to find a way to get around that and evolve into the new world that he's in to achieve his greatest potential.
Exactly. And so what I needed to do was to find all the people that were being held in that energy, and then create an awakening for them, which is what one of the goals of the books is to create this awakening that we have to be better people. If this is going to survive, we just have to be better people.
Absolutely love
we have
that.
to be outstanding.
Said that just as I was looking up the stuff for the billions. Now, I picture them as being really freaking scary. I told Michelle that they reminded me of, in the Hunger Games, of those hounds that they create at the end to kill Peeta and Katniss. I pictured, that's what I pictured, just but on a larger scale and a little bit more on the bearish side. They're terrifying.
Not as terrifying as the writers, though.
Oh yes, the writers are terrifying. It's true.
Oh my god, like that is.
Spider rats.
I was reading that, going, this is unnecessary in life. Like, we don't need part spider, part rat.
Well, the fact that we started experimenting with our own technology. I'm trying to see if I have pictures, because I had some artists that worked with me that I can share with you guys.
Because no matter what they can't be scarier than what I'm picturing in my mind.
Well,
that's even better. The human mind is much more frightening.
Which one?
I said the human minds, the capability of the human mind to. Oh, it's not showing me pictures. Oh wait, it is. Hold on. we can scare ourselves much more than anything Hollywood could ever create.
Very true.
But that's why the series needs to be turned into something so we can see
That's
that.
the Biodroid. Can you see it?
It's a little blurry.
I
Or, you
don't
know, you
how
can
to-
always email them to us this way, because we have not just YouTube, we also have the podcast listeners. So this way we can post it on our Facebook page, so maybe the listeners.
Oh,
see.
okay. Yeah, you can't really see it. Sorry.
It's
Go
okay.
away.
Technology.
I had a Biley on. I'll have a picture of Kyla too. Let's see if that one comes up.
Oh, let's see if she is how I picture her. See?
You can't really see it.
Okay.
Some of the pictures are up on the visionquest.com, but not all of them.
We'll have to go to
And those are the
visionquest.com.
loincloths, and I mean, so I'm really playing with. Hopefully, you can go there and take a look and get involved. Some of the creatures, I've been trying to post all those, but I am technologically challenged when it comes to to the internet. So some of it is there, but not all of it.
That's why so many of us are writers. It's because we're technologically challenged.
You guys are writers too, yeah.
Yes. I do as little as possible. My father was into computer science and everything, and I think for a while I just blocked out as much computer stuff as possible because he was all about computers. And I was just a naturally rebellious child. So yeah, whatever he was into, I was like, nope, not going to be into that.
My son Nicholas is a computer nerd. He just got his first job as a computer programmer. I'm excited for him. And my daughter, I don't know if you know Troy and Belisario from Pretty Little Liars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my daughter. So the kids are working.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The kids are grown. The husband is gone. The dog is dead. I'm free, so I can really.
It's outstanding.
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 Well,
So
I don't
Michelle,
know
you're
if
gonna
it's
enjoy the
really
hangover in the
creepy
morning,
to-
aren't you?
Say again.
I said Michelle's gonna enjoy her hangover in the morning, isn't she?
Oh my gosh, let's not. I'm visiting family right now, and I went to one of my cousin's houses for dinner, and we're a bunch of loud, crazy Italians, so there was a lot of wine, and now I'm having more wine. And
I
they're still gonna wake me up at 6
San
o'clock
Diego,
tomorrow morning.
hosting me. And she's been on an adventure to explore our family heritage from an island in Louisiana called Avery Island. We're Avery.
Oh,
And if you ever tried Tabasco sauce,
Yes.
of course.
that's where it comes from.
Good to know.
I know I have to write that story.
Yeah.
That's the story. Although I want her to write it.
So I know most epic quest stories have a death in the story that spurs the main character on. But can we pause and just discuss why Rand had to die?
And let's make it even worse for me, because in my head I cast everybody. In my head.
Yes, we have fantasy casting is huge with us. We love fantasy
I
casting.
love this. Okay, so let's
So in
start
my
with Rand. Who was Rand for you?
For me, it was Miguel from This Is Us. That's who I pictured.
And I came up with a different Rand, totally different, but oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Do you remember Revolution, the TV show, like 2 seasons where everything shut off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The uncle in that.
Oh.
And
Yes.
Miles from Zoo and Bella's dad from Twilight, and don't judge me for citing that movie.
No, not at all. Twilight had its place. It had an interesting reason for being written.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look up his name because it's gonna bug me.
Well, for me with Miguel or with Rand, I was like, okay, Miguel from This Is Us, this will be great. And everybody in the fandom for This Is Us always craps on him because he's the second husband. Nobody likes him. And then he gets killed, and I was like, great.
Rand, and Diana and I had this full text message conversation because we text each other more than we text our own husbands. And we had this full conversation about how much we love the parents in this story. We love Detra and we love Rand, and it was like right before Rand died. And I think we both read that same part around the same time because all of a sudden the text messages started coming in.
That's when she started getting the Funny or Die videos. That there's a gem that they do called Zach Morris is Trash, and it points out how horrible Zach Morris is in Saved by the Bell as a person. And that's when I made the connection of Laser and Zach Morris, because he was so unbelievably selfish and he caused this tragedy to happen.
He did cause the tragedy to happen.
He did.
I mean, that's part of that evolution. Again, there's a whole psychology inside these books that you women are, of course, picking up on because you are outstanding women.
Yay, outstanding.
Okay, can we pause and that's all I have left.
Drink it up, girl.
Tiny sips. You can do tiny sips.
Mm-hmm. You said you've got the bottle behind the computer.
I might have to get it.
I think it's important to. It's funny. I wrote a very small book. I don't even know if it came out. It might be on Amazon, called Visionary Being One, that really ties into the philosophy of the Vision Quest books. And part of it is really facing your inner demons and letting them go, the things that hold you back from being successful. So it's confronting your inner child and confronting what event in your life, which is what Laser has to do in the books. He has to confront his responsibility. His father's death, which is what sets up his anger. The anger is at himself. Mm-hmm. On a number of levels. I went to Webster University in St. Louis, just outside of St. Louis, Webster Groves, Missouri. And I'm actually in psychology. And one of the things that I wanted to do, or is in my writing, if you look at the scripts that I wrote even in Quantum Leap or The Net or any of the shows that I produced and wrote for, there's a psychological conversation happening. And I hope that the Vision Quest has that, or I believe that the Vision Quest has that as well, because I did a lot to write it in so that people could question themselves. What is it that holds me back? What did I do in my life that doesn't allow me to be successful, or does allow me to be successful? What is the emotion that drives you? And that's the other thing. Once you get into the books a little deeper, you'll see that the biodroids, especially 5. Now here's a machine that's dealing with his emotions for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. So what is it like to have the emotion of envy, of anger, if you've never experienced it before? And it's a challenge as a writer to look at what are the emotions that drive us as human beings. And emotional storytelling is exciting in the sense that it's the reason that you hook the reader to staying with the books and moving forward. And I'm a screenwriter. I wrote teleplays and screenplays. So writing a novel was a huge challenge for me, to slow down the storytelling, to not cut to really put in, what did it feel like? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? So you'll find where suddenly I got into food.
Yes, and that reminds me, that was another question. Where can I get a 1 foot long strawberry? 'Cause I really enjoyed that part. Because then my next question was, I wonder if my husband would be upset if I turned the pool into one big Nutella bowl.
It's women.
Exactly. This is where our thoughts go on that.
I could get on board with that easily.
Oh, I figured you would. You'd end up camping out in my backyard. I think I put that in. Yeah, actually, this was one of the sections I actually had stuck a post-it on, was going into the use of food to help create that that world where you've got the the foot-long strawberries, the large bananas, slices of dinner plates, all these different things, and that was part of their celebration of life, which I also found interesting. It wasn't just a funeral like you have here in the States. You have a celebration of life, and kind of helps give an insight into the culture, into their culture. Like they have a culture in addition to everything else that's going around.
I wanted us, again, it's not a dystopian society. We figured it out, to have enough food, to have enough water. One of the things that set the fear factor of what the world that we live in right now is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of scarcity. And the truth is, we have everything that we need. This is paradise. Why are we letting these people make us fearful?
Mm-hmm.
We can certainly clone and create and grow. And a lot of that is based on true science that I explored doing research for the books. The ability to make this world a paradise is here. We have everything that we need. We just need to work together and not feel like, oh, we have to hoard this. We have to control this. So let's tell people there's not enough and keep them in fear and keep the prices going up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that, as we evolve, and again, have you ever had that moment when you think of someone and the phone rings and it's them calling, but you thought of it first?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it happens. It's something, actually, it's funny. We in my office, because my day job, I'm a paralegal, and my boss always says that whenever he's discussing, a client or something, within a day, they end up calling us. It's something that happens so often in our office that we've actually taken note of it. And my attorney that I work for, very skeptical person. So it's something that, I truly believe happens.
We all have those powers. That's the point. There's times when you go into a situation where you sense danger.
Mm-hmm.
These are telepathic powers. And we are so trained to ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
We ignore our sixth senses. And so the book is saying, hey, get back in touch with those.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to help us evolve too. We can't let men or whatever say, no, you can't have that power. The truth is, and I think Master Po talks about it, Christ said, do as I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important to us to evolve, to acknowledge the fact that you can sense danger. You can sense an event that's happening. You may have a dream. I had 2 earthquake dreams, 24 hours exactly to the moment of earthquakes. As a matter of fact, they were so clear and concise that people said, I'm on your phone tree. You have another earthquake dream, call me. So I believe that we have gifts, and maybe everybody doesn't have the same gifts. Maybe you're a healer. Have you ever met a healer in your life? A doctor?
Emotionally, yeah.
Or a doctor that just put his hands on you and knew exactly where to go and exactly what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a chiropractor, or maybe it's somebody. What I'm saying is that we as humans have these abilities, and that's where the books vibrate on a whole other level.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a story. Yes, it's an adventure. There's a love story. We haven't even met until we get to book 2, Ilana Blue. Well, we meet her, but the Ilana Blue storyline. And Duquesne Kovacs is a really interesting character.
Kovacs is a
It is.
very
I liked-
interesting character.
So
Kim
was
or-
there a particular storyline that came to you first? Because I know for many of us, we have that what if question. But was there a particular storyline within the Vision Quest series that honed in on you first that you just had to write and build from there?
Kyla.
I
Kyla.
loved Kyla. I feel like, and you were mentioning that, the characters, Laser in particular, it's all about facing your fears and moving forward and accepting that and building on it. I almost feel like each, Cashton, Laser, and Kyla, they each kind of represent a human emotion that has to be like, that they need to win, because Cashton seems very level-minded and he's able to see it logically, and Kyla, she can read auras, so she can read emotions, and Laser is just all over the place. He's just a hot mess.
I think that's why I needed 3 people to tell the story. It's
Mhm.
not just a single character. I needed each of them to represent a kind of human being. Cashin is that amazing nerd who wants to be liked, he's this weird combination of an athlete and a nerd that you don't quite see, but he doesn't know how strong and powerful he is.
Mhm.
And his evolution is so exciting and wonderful when he discovers who he is. And the same thing with Kyla, in the sense that she loves Laser,
Mhm.
and she can't figure out it. I think it's something that we as women all deal with. When you have a best friend, how do you cross that line without losing your best friend?
Yeah, I think we've all
And
come across that. And also, I think maybe for her, part of the thing is that he's not good enough for her yet. This is just me talking with the Zach Morris effect. But I don't think he hasn't grown to be good enough for her yet. And I like the relationship that was building in that, and the lessons that was being taught in that with her and him, because he wasn't quite good for her yet, but yeah, it didn't feel like she was falling all over herself to make him like her, and she wasn't
changing herself to make him like her.
Yeah, she wasn't compromising who she was.
But
and I like that.
he does something for her, which is he loves her for who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Even though in his mind it's a friendship, and he makes her feel safe just to be who she is, that she is this splicer, that she's, even though Stryker is a racist, I don't have to put it any other way, she feels bad about the fact that she is human, but she has these other qualities and these abilities and this other bloodline. I mean, so the book tries to deal with sexism, and again, it works on a lot of levels. But Laser just sees her for being wonderful, and that moment where they escape the Balion.
I love that scene. I loved it.
And where time stops and they're right there, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's like, oh no. But I loved it. It was so well done. Now, in the subsequent books, do we learn more about her backstory? Because you touched on it a little bit, and I'm very intrigued.
We do. I mean, not in as much detail. But I'm trying to think of, is it book 2 or book 3 that we really get into? Once they go on the Odysseys, they have to go on their rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
In the future, and I wish we had this now, before you can hold a job, buy a house, have land, get married, have children, you have to be able to survive. Because the great quakes woke us up to the fact that life can change like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they each go on a vision quest. which is where the title comes from. The Native American Vision Quest is this amazing 15,000-year-old journey where you have to go and figure out who you are as a human being and find, where your powers come from. What is your strong suit? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that hold you back? What are the things that drive you forward? So I tried to balance that out. And book 3, The Odyssey, which is the longest of the books so far, is really Laser goes one way, Cashin goes another way, and Kyla goes on her own adventure. So each of them are on this adventure and they are not going to get back together really until book 5. We'll follow their storylines, but they really track into these various places. So it's a journey. It's definitely a journey of evolution. And if people can't evolve, the question is what happens to them? If you don't evolve, what happens to you? And that's the bigger macro question is, as a society, if we don't evolve, what happens to us?
I love it. And I'm looking forward to being able to read. I'm going to have to at least get to book 2 before the end of February because I'll be with you at the Writers' Conference.
What writers? Oh, the GLAWS, Greater Los Angeles.
Yep, I'm going to be, actually, I don't think Desiree might not have told you yet, I'm moderating your panel.
Hi. What's the name of our panel?
It's on world building. I don't know the specific name. I just know that much.
It's on
world building.
World building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, world building is incredibly challenging. I actually hope to release one day the Bible that I wrote. Happen to the world. Money, science, technology, medicine, literally 80 pages of a breakdown of what happened to the world. And how
that would be so fascinating to read because I mean, it's very evident that you put so much into the creation of this world and in every little detail, and it's not just there's this and then this happened because you give us the big stuff and we are like, okay, all right, we see the big stuff, but then it's also the little things. The devil is in the details, with the characters, with the touches on the backstory. With the food, with the customs. So yeah, I love it. I thought you did a fantastic job with your world building. It's something to really, one of those books to look at for like studying purposes if somebody wants to study your world building. I think this is a great example of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that big time. Were there any questions I can ask? I can answer?
Well, we've been asking our questions. I don't know if we've had any more questions.
It's been such an easy conversation that they've flowed so perfectly. Oh gosh, something just popped into my head and now it's gone. So I'm just gonna finish my list.
And a few more questions. It was funny.
It's an outstanding question.
Yay!
Oh gosh.
And what was funny with your questions was...
No, I remembered.
Okay.
One of the things that I really liked was when you first started introducing 5, that one of the things was he was being bombarded with all these emotions, and the only thing that he could do to kind of file them away was to approach them with logic. That was the only way that he could really sort out these emotions and try to figure them out. So how were you, writing from a robot's point of view and trying to figure out how they would tackle emotions? How were you able to, how did you kind of get into that mindset? Because I think, writing from a teenage boy's point of view I imagine would have been challenging, but there's something to work off of. But we don't really have robots to work off of.
Again, I looked at being a mom, having kids, watching them discover their own emotions. We as human beings are driven by pain or pleasure. So the first emotions that we deal with are, I'm hungry, this hurts, I want food to comfort me. So food will give me pleasure. Some people don't evolve past that. So I really looked at what is it that we awaken to first. He's a baby, essentially, 5. And he's not male and he's not female. You know, he's this androgynous being that has to deal with both, even though his DNA comes from, which we'll learn later in the books, comes from Kovacs, Duquesne Kovacs. DNA for 5 and for most of the biodroid population.
So does that make Kovacs then the father of the bio droids?
Kovacs was such an interesting character. I feel like he's kind of like the hero and the scapegoat of society, because he brought the bio droids to rescue everyone and to regulate society, kind of. And then when they turned on people, he was the easy scapegoat. I don't know. That's just kind of how I saw him.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's the dichotomy of he wants so much to be a hero, but fate keeps taking it away from him. What happens with the IL virus that comes back from the moon? He starts the splicers, and he did it out of a sense of nobility, out of a sense of wanting to help humanity. And yet, he did it out of a sense of humanity, that he realized what was missing. You know, and I think that's the gift that we all need to look at. When you look at a great app, it's because somebody looks at the world and says, what do people need? There's a number of organizations that said, if you can create something that helps 1 billion people, we want to know who you are. So in that sense, Kovacs is a really interesting character, because he really wants to do the best that he can do to help mankind. But he's impatient, he's greedy, he wants to be famous, he wants to be loved. Sounds like somebody else we know right now. And it's his own demon. It gets in his way. And he ends up making mistakes, because, which you'll read in other books, of why he fasts and he doesn't wait and he doesn't do the research and he doesn't take the time, because he knows he has the answer, but he doesn't look at the ramifications of that answer. Mm-hmm. And it costs him a relationship with Elise Avery, mm-hmm. Who we find out is the love of his life. And there's some real wild twists that come out of that storyline. So yeah, he's a flawed hero, which is a great hero, and he's a flawed villain. Mm-hmm. Created his alter ego as 5. 5 is everything that he wanted to be subconsciously, which is the king of the world. And 5 is doing that for him.
Which, you know, you mentioned before that 5 is basically a baby right now, and he's just starting out, and it's terrifying to think that as a baby he can wield that much power, and to think what he can do as he evolves. It's really scary to think about how much more powerful he can become.
I can't remember who says the line, but the fact that Kovacs gave all the knowledge of humanity to a virus, which is the other piece of the DNA that protected the machine over the heat system in the machine. Only a virus could survive the heat. If you give all the knowledge of humanity to something as destructive of a virus, as a virus, what happens? And that's, you know, we have to be accountable to what we're creating right now, whatever it is. It was really hard to find the foundation of the book, but once I found it, it was really easy to write. Except for this 5th book, it's really challenging, but we'll see.
The more challenging, the better it'll be.
I'm sorry, ask again.
I was going to say the more challenging, the better it'll be.
Well, you're breaking up just a little bit. Say one more time.
The more challenging it is, the better it will be.
Wisdom. Outstanding wisdom.
Yay! More wine. And Michelle, did you have another question?
That's like literally my last drop.
You can get
I
more.
guess the interview is over. What can I say?
All right, wrap it up. Well, as for a writer who is trying to build a world right now, and I scrapped the first draft entirely because I didn't like the world that I had built. How did you do it, basically? Because really, I've never written. What I'm working on right now is unlike anything I've ever written before, and this is the first time that I have tried to build a world from scratch. And it's so challenging to build a world that's different and not like ours, but similar enough that people can relate to it. And it's a whole new kind of challenge as a writer. And the fact that you can do it and do it in such detail and make it sound real is mind-blowing.
Let me ask you a question as a writer. When you write, do you hear the voices of your characters speaking to you?
Yeah. Now that I've gotten to know them, I took a while to know them, but now that I've gotten to know them, I'm starting to know their personalities a little bit more. And
right. You created their background, you created their history, you created all the things around them. So once you have the voices of people talking to you, now your vision, if you can, is to kind of close your eyes or open your eyes, however you do it, and start to see the world. What does it look like? What color is it? What does it smell like? What are the senses? What are the 5 senses of that world? And then what's the 6th sense of what's going to happen? So it's really experiencing the world through the mind's eye. And I say this all the time. Sometimes, no matter if you're a great artist or a bad artist, pick up a pencil, a bunch of pencils, color pencils, and start to put the colors in the world, and start to put the textures in the world, and start to put so when you put those people in a scene, you see every nuance of that world. Does it smell bad? Does it smell good? What does it smell like? Is it, one of the things that I love about Kyla is her sense of smell when it comes to Laser. She knows what he smells like when he walks in the room, when he sits next to her, the scent that comes off his hair. That is how we know we're in love with somebody, because we fall into our senses. What a touch, what we touch, what we taste, what we smell. All those things are in world building. And that's what we as writers need to be able to communicate to readers, so we pull them into the world that we've created. Does that answer your question?
It does. I'm having like a writer's nerd fangirl moment right now.
Outstanding.
Outstanding. I'm almost done with my wine too. Well, I want to say that I would love to come back and because this has been insightful for me too. I mean, I'm struggling in this 5th book because of something that just happened and what I want to do in the writing. And so it's very helpful for me to be able to talk to you guys and your fans. If I'm sorry that they don't have questions that they can bring in. So I know what works, what doesn't work, what's exciting to them, what do they want to know more about, as I hopefully bring this, I mean, I can't tell you, to get my arms around through 4 books and come into this fifth book and bring everything together. You see how many storylines I'm now weaving back together.
Mm-hmm.
Kovacs and Five and Elise and Laser and Kyla and Ilana Blue and Mastapo, and I mean it's a big journey. What's happening in the world of the corporations?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I wanted to create a world that there was hope, because that's what's missing in most of the reading that I've been doing in other books. There's no hope in our future, and until we ourselves create hope, there won't be hope. And we can't let the people that run our world make us live in fear. We have to say, you are not the answer. We are the answer. And then collectively, we will create a better future.
I love that. That's such a great philosophy to have and to keep on and everything.
Well, you
Because we're outstanding.
We're outstanding, and what am I?
My last sip of wine here.
I'm like, oh.
Well, you are welcome to come back
Yes.
anytime. If you want to just talk it out for an hour, just please let us know, and we are
We would
happy
love to have you
to do that with you.
The book I really want everybody to read is The Odyssey.
Is that book 2 or 3?
The Odyssey, that's book 3.
Okay.
And this is my favorite book so far of all the books. It says so much to who we are as human beings, and I think to the characters as well. But it's a very intimate book for me. So I would love to know your thoughts and your feelings about it if you get there.
We're gonna have to make some changes in our book rotation.
Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, before the end of February, let me see if I can get to that, because I'll be seeing you again in February. So I'm like, I know. I was thinking, okay, I can definitely get to book 2, finish book 2 by the end of February.
And during your panel, can you guys just like set up a laptop and FaceTime me so I can just watch?
I'll try to get some pictures, but please go to thevisionquest.com. And
we will share that with everybody.
And if you have questions, you can email me directly. They come right to me. So please feel free to do that, and hopefully I can answer some of your questions. But I'm grateful for the readers. You are the future. We are the collective consciousness of the world that will make the world a better place.
Well, thank you so much for making time for us this evening. We really appreciate you joining us. We had an outstanding time.
Outstanding.
I switched to water.
My smart move. That's what I'm going to do now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, as we tell every author who's come on the show, you're now officially part of our family. You cannot get rid of us. You are stuck with us forever. So you're welcome back at any time.
Thank you. I look forward to it, and go in light, as Mastapo says, and let's change the world.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, and we hope you all enjoyed the show, and we'll see you all next Thursday.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye.
If it's today, it's wine, women, and words. Bye, ladies.
Bye.